Hey everyone. Good morning. I am Dr. Trisha Pingel. We're not really doing the morning checkup this morning. We're actually doing a live Q&A, and I will wait for some of you to join in here this morning. I'm a little late. I'm sorry. So I have these workers at my house installing some stuff in my office, so I can't sit in my normal environment with my notes and everything. And then it's also my son's birthday, so we had all these opening presents and stuff this morning. And then now it's 9:45, so I'm late, so I'm sorry. But this morning we're doing a live Q&A, and some of you sent some questions ahead of time. Thank you, and I will address all of those. And for the rest of you, this is a time to ask some questions. Now, I will warn you that the questions scroll pretty fast on both sides of Instagram and Facebook, so I'm going to try to see them all and get them all, but we're going to kind of work together, right? We got to get this flow so that I can see them all. So today is questions. Now, normally when I have a topic, you guys have all sorts of questions, so I'm not sure if you guys have any questions on your mind that you wanted to ask me. Now, this could be about health, this could be about stress impact, this could be about medical conditions, diet. Really, it's fair game. For the most part, within reason, ask away, because I am here. So I will wait for some questions to pop up, and I'll start with some of the ones that were sent to me ahead of time. Celery juice, I see that. I'm going to write these down as I go. I'm coming back to you on that. Thank you. I'll start with that one. We'll get to the ones that some of you asked ahead of time as well. I've got them all written down here. Celery juice, is used a lot. It's touted a lot in the medical medium, I believe, for helping viruses, like get rid of Epstein-Barr and chronic illness. I do see great benefit to that. I do think most of my patients who make their own celery juice feel better. They feel like their liver has better detoxification. They feel lighter. As far as it working directly with viruses and getting rid of chronic viruses, there's a lot of research on that. I haven't used it enough clinically in that regard to be able to concrete evidence say yes, but I will say I do know a lot of people who have done that protocol, and it's been a lot of favorable response. Celery is also really easy to juice, and it's inexpensive, so it's always a nice thing. I like to add other stuff to it, like apple, berries, things like that. Happy birthday to my son. Thank you. He's 9, and he got a Nerf gun this morning, so it's all I can do to keep him from shooting it at me while I sit here in the living room. How can I get my CRP lowered in my body? That is a great question. So CRP is inflammation. So there are many different ways that you can lower inflammation, but honestly, I think what most people miss, the number one thing that people miss, is they don't figure out where it's coming from. So you have to know the source. So for example, I have some patients that have autoimmune disease, and I can get their CRP down to a certain level. I'm just writing other people's questions down. I can get their CIP down to a certain level, but sometimes I can't get any lower than that. Other times I can. So I think you really have to find what's the source. And because that particular people has an autoimmune disorder, their immune system tends to be heightened, but we were able to drop it significantly and keep it low, that's a success to me. If I can get it below 1, I'm happy. But I think there's a huge combination between getting a full lab workup, finding out where that's coming from. Where is that inflammation? Assessing gut health, assessing stress. You got to address stress, because stress will always raise the CRP, and often you don't even know why. Thyroid health, autoimmunity, those types of things all need to be screened. Plus doing a low inflammatory, more plant-based diet is really, really helpful. That's a great question. Should probiotics be used every day for those with IBS? General answer, yes. Here's the kicker. Sometimes if there's an abnormal growth in the patient with IBS where there's a favor to a certain bacteria, adding probiotics, particularly prebiotics, can sometimes make it worse. So if the general gut flora is okay and it's not completely out of balance, probiotics are a fantastic addition to somebody with IBS. But often it takes some time to find the right one. I personally like ones that have a combination and a wide variety of lactobacillus, bifido, and Saccharomyces boulardii. I seem to find that Saccharomyces boulardii makes a huge difference in those with IBS. So check out some probiotics that may have that. I do have that written down, I believe, in my probiotics article. Okay? Question, is COVID-19 98% survivable? If you look at the data, that's what the data states. Yeah, and might even be more than that, survivable. So, I mean, it's an ongoing data pool, right? But definitely that number of survival is getting higher and higher as time goes on. So that's a very good thing. So yes. Hi. I just got a hi there. Good morning. What about kefir and types of dishes do you like? You know, I don't drink kefir personally most of the time because it's made from milks or some sort of dairy milk, which I am allergic to. But as far as fermentable foods, I mean, you can use fermentable foods for multiple different health conditions, and they can be anything from sauerkraut to kimchi. I love to eat kimchi. We do kimchi tacos and things like that. So I don't have a lot of personal experience with kefir, and I apologize for that. I guess that's something I need to put on my list. I just don't have this huge, overwhelming, recipe pool on that one. So good morning. Good morning. I had a question ahead of time about hormones and hormone imbalance after menopause, which can be really complicated, right? Because you don't always know what's going on. So one of the things to always consider post-menopause is don't always assume that all of the hormones are low. Sometimes they aren't. Sometimes you have a low estradiol and a low progesterone and a low testosterone, but you'll have some storage of estrogen called estrone that's hanging around, and that imbalance can cause a lot of symptoms. So the things that I always look at is how's the liver detoxification? Hold on, I'm trying to catch some of these questions as I go. How is the liver detoxification in somebody post menopause? Okay, that one is very important because if the liver isn't detoxifying those stored estrogens, then you can get a lot of symptoms. The other thing to consider and talk to your doctor about is maybe using a really small amount of a bioidentical progesterone, just because sometimes that can ease the symptoms while you're going through the hormones going like this. Okay, because what happens, the lucky ones, all the hormones will drop at once. For those that are under stress, maybe have other health factors as well, thyroid imbalances, and just some general genetics and liver detoxification issues, they kind of go like this, and that's what you feel like, right? It's kind of like symptom here, symptom there, symptom here. So a little bit of progesterone can often help. Otherwise, look at clearing the liver. Strong, healthy diet. I cannot stress diet and exercise enough when it comes to menopause, okay? I just really can't. The more active you are, the better you eat, the better it's going to be. Let's see. I'm trying to catch yours, Margie. Let's see. Whose hair is, I know someone whose hair is completely fallen out on one side of the head. Does have a thyroid issue. Could that be an issue? Yeah, the thyroid absolutely is involved in hair management as well as stress. There's also a lot of genetic conditions, alopecia, there's other types of things that should definitely be investigated. The thyroid in full should absolutely be investigated, and I would suggest you send your friend to my website to check out the article on hypothyroidism to see what labs typically I would recommend. I have all that detailed out there. I also have that in my book and in my program as well, so if that's something that's of help just for the education of what to ask for, what to look for, that would be important. That would definitely need to be ruled out. I would also rule out cortisol. So look at stress markers like DHEA, cortisol, and definitely look at the sex hormones without a doubt. Estrone, estradiol, progesterone, total and free testosterone. And this will re-air, so you can write all those down. I'm trying to make sure I get everybody's here. What is the difference between a food intolerance and a food allergy? I just wrote an article on that. We just kind of talked about that a little bit. A food intolerance means that the body has a reaction anywhere up to typically 4 days after eating it. An allergy is an IgE reaction, meaning that when you eat something, lips swell, or you have an immediate reaction. That's an immediate reaction allergy. So there's a difference between somebody that has an allergy to milk versus an intolerance to milk, right? So it can take up to 4 days to have that reaction from an intolerance. Intolerances are typically because the digestion is not digesting, absorbing food well. Okay, so there's usually something in the digestive system that's causing a problem, whether it be abnormal stomach acid, typically low, not high, whether it be lack of enzymes from the gallbladder or pancreas, whether it be stress, stopping the body from digesting food in a normal way, or maybe there's a gut flora imbalance, but there's usually something stemming from the gut when there's an intolerance. And often you can reverse that or minimize it by treating the gut. So I hope that helps. Is soy, hang on, I got the soy question here. Okay. Is soy consumption biochemically known to elevate estrogen and consequently drop men's testosterone? Well, that's kind of a multi-part question. So if estrogen gets too high in men, it will drop testosterone because testosterone likes to turn into estrogen. Whether or not soy causes that is quite an area of debate. I personally eat tofu regularly, but I don't drink soy milk. There's a lot of processing in the soy milk. I prefer a non-genetically modified, non-GMO fermented tofu, right? So when people are eating a lot of processed soy products and it's in a constant in their diet, there has been some literature that says that that has a more estrogen response. However, if you withdraw the isoflavones from soy and administer to those people with estrogen-based cancers, it actually has quite a benefit. So I think with everything in life, you have to look at how much of something are you eating, and of what you're eating, is it well processed, is it well handled? And so I am not against soy, but I do lean more towards nut milks, nut cheeses, those types of things, and I save the soy for edamame or non-GMO tofu. But if your estrogen's going up and the testosterone's going down, remember there's a relationship between those two. And I do have more info on that. I believe it's in the prostate article at drpingel.com. Has some information about how estrogen turns into testosterone. And I did a live also, I believe, on estrogen dominance, and I did address some of that as well. So check that out, okay? Try not to miss any of you. How about miso? I use miso. I enjoy miso. I use it in sauces mostly, not a ton. I don't know what you mean by what about it. I mean, I'm not against it, if that's what you're asking. I think anything in moderation that comes from some sort of plant is always going to be on my list. When I eat soy, I get headaches within 30 minutes. Typically, that's an intolerance, okay? So take a look at that. Maybe the gut's not breaking it down right. What are your hormone levels? What's off in your body that's not allowing you to break that down? Or maybe you're just simply intolerant or allergic to it, and that's okay too. That means you would want to make sure that you read labels. I will warn you, Mary, that soy is in a ton of processed foods, a ton of them. So if there's a box and you're reading the back, I guarantee you're going to see soy in it. So if you have that reaction, be really careful. I would definitely make sure you're eating only whole foods. Can you guys hear my howling hound dogs up there? They're howling. All right. You're welcome, Victoria. Victorio, sorry, that came out wrong. How do I eliminate ovulation pain, especially now that I'm going through perimenopause? Typically, once again, you want to make sure you get a good hormone workup. Are you storing estrone? That's the first question to ask. Why am I getting this heavy pain during this time? Usually, if you're supporting the liver in some way, it will help. Now, obviously, I can't tell you directly what to do. You need to talk to your doctor about it, but there are many, many herbs and lifestyle changes that help support the liver. Once again, I have an article on that as well. I also have a live. In fact, that live was a lot of fun. There was a lot of good information in how to detoxify the liver naturally, but looking at things like plants, there are a lot of herbs to consider. Dandelion root tea is really easy to find. Milk thistle, burdock. Burdock root's a good one to look into for you. Specifically for that condition, but make sure that you talk to your doctor first before using it. Often also just like as needed, you can do warm heating pads, something warm across the stomach at that time or across the uterus at that time really does help. Exercise. I find that a lot of pelvic floor work like Pilates, yoga really tends to, in a way, I think relax that spasm around that time in that area and teaches you ways to breathe. So I found a lot of benefit when that was happening to me. from doing Pilates and stretching and doing certain exercises at that time in combined with heat. So that would be something to do in the moment. Long term, you want to look at liver detoxification and is there a way that we can support that hormone shift, which is what I just talked about earlier with maybe using a little bit of bioidentical progesterone to balance that out. But always check and see where your levels are first before you add hormone. Okay? Okay. Hello, Holly. Good afternoon, Jerry. Mary, what foods are best for reducing inflammation in the body, specifically someone with Hashimoto's? For me, it's always about plants, Mary. I mean, you've got to look at an anti-inflammatory diet, Hashimoto's or not. There is research that shows the lower your inflammation, the better your health, right? So looking at really good omega-3s, okay? So whether you do that in fish, I don't. I use nuts, seeds. This morning on my oatmeal, I added hemp seeds, right, to get more omega-3s in there. I had flax seeds, I had chia seeds. We do chia puddings for breakfast a lot, trying to get more of that omega-3 into our diet. Using a lot of foods that traditionally, that use a lot of turmeric, cumin, garam masala, chili, things like that actually can have an anti-inflammatory effect. A ginger is a fantastic way to do that as well. And then exercise, stress reduction. You know, the bottom line is, guys, when you're running from a bear, you're going to be inflamed because you're running all the time, right? So you need to really take a look at that. But I would say those are some of the things that I would suggest is looks kind of in the area of spices, as well as natural sources of omega-3 primarily. And I might think of more along that. That's just off the top of my head. You guys, I'm answering on my toes, right? I have no reference, so bear with me. It's kind of fun. Are you guys having fun? It's kind of fun. Yeah. I just got to keep up and catch all these, right? I have a lot of you joining. It's an open Q&A. Ask away. AIP protocol. Good suggestion. In fact, you had a question ahead of time, my dear. Let's see. It was about tumors and liver detoxification, and can bog down liver or trouble with the liver cause tumor growth? You know, I don't have a stat for you on this. I don't have a concrete yes it can or no it can't. However, the bottom line is the more toxic we are, the more likelihood of something going wrong. So liver support is something that I believe is essential. And anyone, whether you're doing that through a really strict diet and exercise program, or whether you're adding in some of those herbs I talked about earlier, like dandelion root, milk thistle. I think you had mentioned milk thistle. I use milk thistle a lot. Burdock root. You can use things like beets. Beet juice has a great liver detoxification effect. But I think you were asking, could it cause tumor development? I don't see why it couldn't, but I can't say that that's the only reason. There are so many reasons why tumors can develop. So that's kind of I know it's kind of a short answer to a very complicated question, but I'm not sure how to really, I can't really pinpoint it per se. I can tell you that in my experience with patients with all types of cancers, tumors, growths, those types of things, liver support is always part of my protocol, always, because it cannot hurt. Right, to keep the body as clean as possible, especially with all the toxins out there in the air. Okay? People are liking the questions. Do we have any over there on Instagram? Just a lot of people joining in today. I think I had a question about almonds and spices. I did. I had someone that was saying they like to eat almonds, but is it okay to eat spicy almonds? Well, here's the thing. Depends on the spice. Like, if you want to use like chili powder and cumin and turmeric and all these amazing spices that are well sourced, absolutely. I love like curried almonds, where you roll them in like curry powder, a little bit of turmeric. They do stain your fingers. Maybe a little bit of cayenne or chili. Fantastic on almonds. What you do have to watch for on some of the store-bought flavored almonds is that they're not actually using spices. A lot of them use MSG. A lot of them use artificial flavorings. That I would have an issue, you know? Oh, hey, you know what? I just thought of something. On the question about hair loss earlier, back to you for a second. I actually am writing an article on that right now. So that's coming up down the pipeline. So keep a lookout for that, because that's a big one for a lot of people, hair loss in general. None of us like to lose our hair, right? So keep a lookout for that. I have actually quite a few different articles coming out, and I try to base them off what I'm seeing you guys ask, and hair loss is definitely on there. how can I promote hair growth if I have hypothyroid and low ferritin levels? How do you promote it? You correct the cause. You balance out the hormones and you get your ferritin levels to where they need to be. That's how you correct that. So you always look for the cause, right? And if you're confirmed that those are the two reasons that your hair is falling out, then that's what you need to focus on. Now, do keep in mind, the thyroid, it can be kind of complicated. It's not always as simple as replenishing T4, okay? So definitely, Larry and Jessica, I don't know if it's Larry or Jessica asking the question, but definitely check out my article on thyroid, on hypothyroidism. I personally had low ferritin levels for a very long time, lost my hair more in a guideline like this, kind of like a witch. Simply taking the right form of iron made all the difference. So many times I would have doctors just prescribe some over-the-counter, iron, and it never did anything because I wasn't absorbing it. My gut was not absorbing it because I had low stomach acid. So if you're finding that you're not absorbing the iron that you're taking, you need to find a different form. I will say I had great success personally with plant-based irons. So looking at some of the vegan supplements out there that have iron, I had much better success with, on top of also correcting my digestion. Using apple cider vinegar or acid when I ate food also helped me absorb iron from my food. Another great source of iron naturally is blackstrap molasses. So you can add that to salad dressings and get a nice natural source of iron that way. So definitely correct the thyroid, correct the iron. And just for all of you asking about hair loss, it takes about 6 months for hair to regenerate. So do not expect it to come back in a month, okay? You're gonna set yourself up for failure. It takes a good six months. So if you start to see a few little sprouts or it's not falling out any further, that is a very good thing to notice, okay? It does take time. It absolutely takes time. Good questions, guys. Why does one break into inflammation in the body during a workout? Okay, is it more hormonal balance related or Hashimoto's? Actually, neither. I mean, think about if you're running from a bear during a workout, you're supposed to be increasing your inflammation. The key is, does it go back down? So I have a lot of people who train for marathons, cyclists, things like that. And during the time of their heavy training, their CRP will actually go up. And then when they're done with their training, it comes back down. CRP and inflammation also goes up when you're exposed to a cold, allergies, the flu, and it'll come back down. So that could just be a natural process. Could hormonal and Hashimoto's be involved? Of course it could, but not always, okay? So yeah, it could just simply be that you're working really hard, right? Can I speak more to iodine and taking iodine specifically if you're low? I don't use iodine a lot as its own supplement. I know a lot of naturopaths do. I find that iodine is fairly easy to get in a good mineral and multivitamin. That unless someone shows an outright iodine deficiency, I don't usually do it as an additional supplement. So, for me, it comes down to, is the person making enough T4? Do they have a goiter? If that seems to be working fine, then I usually just honestly keep it in a good mineral and in the diet. I'm not one of the doctors that gives a lot of iodine. Now, I have other colleagues of mine that do, and probably would give a better answer to you than I would, just because I don't use it a ton in that respect. But I would be happy to look into potentially, I'll see if I can find any more data for you on that, or maybe invite one of my other colleagues that uses it for a live to give you more information. Sorry, I don't have a ton on that one. In other words, why do they recommend yoga rather than cardio exercising for Hashimoto's? Well, they don't if your baseline inflammation is already low. Now, if you have a high level of inflammation, your inflammatory marker goes up when you do cardio. However, I might disagree with them a little bit on completely avoiding it. I think it comes down to the stress response. The higher the body's under stress, the higher the antibodies from Hashimoto's. So if doing cardio all the time is giving a ton of stress to your body, that could potentially raise the antibodies. However, that cardio could help you lose weight, balance things out, that actually lower the antibodies over time. So I think you have to look at what's happening right now. Is it causing a massive problem for you in the moment? Or are we looking more at long-term management? If we're looking more at long-term management, I would want a little bit of cardio in there. Now, obviously, if it wipes you out and knocks you down for the day, you might have to start with more like yoga, stretching, Pilates type thing, and work your way up to cardio. But I kind of differ with that recommendation. I got to be honest. I mean, each person's different, and I don't know your health history, so I don't know all your details, right? But I would say the main reason would be that there's already a baseline inflammation and they're trying not to take it too high. But technically, if you're doing it right, that inflammation should come back down once you cool down from the workout. So I guess maybe that's something to investigate further to see if there's more information out there for you, if that helps. Yeah, I love cardio, can't figure it out. How do I help myself so that I can stop breaking out with inflammation after cardio workout? Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. If it's impacting your life, then you're gonna have to do something that cools the body down or calms the body down afterwards. So you might try to do shorter bursts of cardio with longer bursts of yoga, tai chi, those types of things, or try working in different workouts. But I have many Hashimoto's patients who work out really hard and they do fine, okay? So, there might be something else underlying that needs to be investigated. You might not have a full enough workup to know exactly where that's coming from, but I do think you will be able to do cardio. You just have to find the right balance for you and see if you can make sure that you're really staying on top of everything there. And don't push yourself so far to where you knock yourself down. I do find people that do that tend to have a lot of adrenal fatigue. So check your adrenal glands. That's probably my next step. That's probably what I would advise you to do, is really take a good hard look at your stress in your adrenal glands and if your adrenal glands are storing thyroid or not. If you don't know what I mean by that, go back and watch my thyroid live. I also have an article on it on my website, and I also I have a webinar that I uploaded to YouTube that has a lot of information on that too, actually. It's a webinar for my program, but there's a section on it where it educates on thyroid, so that might be really helpful, and I also talk about inflammation. So that might help you. Check that out on my YouTube channel. There was a question a while back, I'm coming back to it on Instagram here, on hormonal acne, I think. It was way up there. Now I gotta see if I can scroll back and find it, because there was a specific question. If you were the one that asks it, just wrote hormonal acne. What did you want to know about hormonal acne? Hit me again with that. What do you mean? As far as like how to stop it? Primarily clearing the liver. Liver support is huge. I did do a live on acne. I also have an article on it as adult acne, and there's a lot of valuable information in there, but diet, exercise, liver support, and trying to balance out those hormones in the meantime really make a difference. Often acne, even though it looks hormonal on the chin, might also be coming from a food intolerance or poor digestion or low stomach acid. So don't immediately say it's hormone. Even if a birth control pill controls it, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only source of the acne. You have to come at acne from multiple places. Any skin disorder is the body trying to get rid of toxin or get rid of something. So look at it that way and figure out what your body's trying to get rid of, whether it be hormones or otherwise. Sometimes when you suppress the hormones with the birth control pill, it slows it down because you don't have as much to get rid of, but it's still present, right? So if it's still present, then you need to look for other ways to, find other ways to find where it's at. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm traveling and drinking more coffee than usual. Is that why my neck on the left side is sore? Adrenals. You know, Tina, I have the same problem. I do love my coffee, and if I drink too much of it or I don't get enough water, I actually get really sore neck muscles. Dehydration is a huge one. You have to keep in mind that when coffee is in the mix, it dehydrates you. As much as we love it, we have to drink more water with it. Traveling also, just trying different beds, sitting in different positions. Adrenals, I mean, it could be involved, particularly if there's a magnesium deficiency. I would look at things like magnesium, minerals, hydration, stretching, and then really get a good assessment of your posture. Are you standing up on your hips right? Are you standing up on your knees right? Little things like that can really cause a problem when you're traveling or if you're under stress. Something as simple as just looking at alignment is crazy, right? But a lot of the times, I mean, I know what I do when I'm stressed out. I do this, right? Instead of this, right? Which is part of the reasons I do a lot of core work and a lot of Pilates, is to try to keep my chest lifted up as opposed to falling into this pattern where I'm leaning forward like this, right? I hope that helps. It could be adrenals, but I mean, it's not a direct one-on-one, I guess is my answer. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's good. Why does water retention occur after a workout or after eating? It doesn't in everyone. I'm not sure your direct situation. My first guess just off that little bit of information, would be mineral imbalance and poor oxygen, or not oxygen, a water balance. So often if you drink water and you pee it right back out, you're not absorbing it into the cell. Oftentimes that tells me that there's a mineral deficiency. If there's a mineral deficiency, often you'll have swelling for different reasons. As far as after eating, I would look at perhaps a food intolerance, but definitely I would get a good solid multivitamin mineral going and a lot of water. I know I beat this over the head, but you should be drinking at least half your body weight in ounces in water per day. So if you're 200 pounds, you need to be drinking at least 100 ounces. If you're exercising, you're gonna need more than that, okay? So very, very important, but it doesn't normally happen in everybody. So that's something that in you gotta figure out where that imbalance is, because you can correct it if you can find it. And that's usually that was where I would be going next. And by the way, guys, on this advice, I'm just telling you where I would go next. It's not always 100%. You know, sometimes I go there and I look at that and I'm like, okay, that wasn't it. And then I have to go figure out what else it is. But that's kind of what's just rolling off my head. If you came to me and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to investigate next, that's where I would go. And if it turns up with nothing, then you got to back up again and see what else you can find. I mean, the goal of a doctor is to help you find the source, help you find the cause. So if you're doing all this testing and you're not finding that cause, then you need to keep testing. You know, you need to keep looking. Okay, because the body should be able to exercise. It should be able to eat without having a side effect. You know, and if it does, you need to figure out why, right? I hope that helps. I really hope that helps a lot. Let's see, you're welcome. You're welcome, Nancy. Let's see, I suffer from constipation. It is such a nightmare for me. You know what? I have a little tip for you. Take a look at vitamin C and magnesium. Magnesium glycinate in particular. And not magnesium sulfate or oxide, because typically a lot of the times the reason why there's a constipation is, once again, just like I was talking about with minerals and hydration, you can see a lot of imbalances there. And magnesium oxide and magnesium sulfate are laxatives, but they don't replenish the magnesium as well as the magnesium glycinate. And you want to get your normal levels of magnesium up high enough. Number two, also, number one reason I see dehydration is constipation is dehydration. Are you drinking enough water? Really, are you? Make sure you are, and more than enough. And vitamin C. So vitamin C and magnesium are natural laxatives. So you can take them until you have you can up your dose until you have a normal bowel movement in the morning. If you're drinking enough water, it will work. If you're not, it may not. Now, there are some patients who have had trauma or have had issues in their intestines where they don't have the correct muscle movement, they don't have the correct peristalsis. Those may still need to do further efforts. But as far as water, vitamin C, and magnesium, those are the three things I would start with and see how that goes. There are some physical issues that can also happen, so that there's a lot of answers to the constipation. But I do have an article on that. My goodness, I do, at drpingel.com, so check that out, okay? And then when we do our next Q&A, we can keep going. But that's where I would start. Watch the hydration, number one. The goal of the colon is to pull water from the body to eliminate toxins. So if there's not enough water, it's not going to pull it into the colon. And then you're going to end up backed up. And when you get backed up, it's really hard to get it going. Okay? Also, dairy. Eating dairy, I find, almost always constipates people. Might want to back off the dairy as well if you haven't done that already. Okay? I saw a bunch of questions come through here. Hang tight, man. Yeah, and I understand the constipation question. That's a big one for me. And if you're not eliminating, you're not removing toxins. So that is something definitely that's telling you something is causing inflammation, or you're not getting enough to the body to be able to do its job. I do want to say magnesium works more on the muscle action of a bowel movement, so making the intestine kind of move things through. Vitamin C helps you pull water into the colon. So you get a little bit of an osmotic effect with the vitamin C as well, which is why the two of them work so well together. That's why. I should tell you why, right? Not just give you a prescription. When I go fast like this, sometimes I miss the why. Sorry about that, but that's why. And usually that does the trick. What minerals are you deficient in if you drink water and still get dehydrated? Typically it's a balance, but I would say look at magnesium for sure, because magnesium, potassium, and calcium has a pretty strong relationship. Sometimes it's potassium. I don't usually prescribe potassium directly. I usually give magnesium and see if it corrects the issue. You can also do little electrolyte supplements that have them all equal. Here's the thing, guys. Minerals are meant to all be there. So the risk you run into when you take just one is, unless you've proven that it's deficient, you can cause more imbalances. So if you are unsure, take a general mineral that has all of them in trace amounts, and they're usually called trace minerals. And then I usually add an additional magnesium at that point. And also, there's an adjustment period with water. So I'm not a great water drinker. I'm getting better. I definitely get my minimum now, but I didn't used to. But when I first started tracking it and drinking it, what would happen was I would just pee it right back out. And then I found over about 2 weeks, I started to absorb it again. It's almost like my body was like, what is that? And it took a while for it to figure it out. So do give a little bit of time as well. There are nutrient tests, Tina, that you can do that check mineral status and things like that. Most of them are not through your traditional lab. They're usually a specialty test. There's some that check white blood cells. There are some that check metabolites in urine. There's quite a few different forms of it. And that might be a good start too if you're finding that you can't find that balance. Okay, but our body knows what to do with water if you have a general minerals there. So start with a trace mineral and see how you do. Do you recommend any collagen supplements as we age? Do you get your collagen just from food? Yeah, I eat a lot of plants. I don't take collagen specifically. Part of the reason is that I'm allergic to dairy and I don't eat meat products, so sometimes it's hard to find a good source of collagen that I want anyway. But if you're eating a lot of plants, you're getting a lot of natural sources for that type of thing. But there are a lot of collagen supplements out there. I don't recommend it as a baseline for everybody. Kind of depends on the situation. If you're having a lot of joint issues and a lot of breakdown of joints, a lot of the times it can help. As far as skin health and like staying young and aging, I focus more on diet, exercise, lifestyle, stress management. Those types of things I find have a little bit better efficacy. But yeah, I don't, it's not a catch-all for me on collagen. I'm not someone who's out there saying, you must take collagen, you must take collagen. I think the body knows how to age, and it knows how to age gracefully. So I don't see why we have to necessarily do a heck more than just support our natural vitamins and minerals and our ability for our body to do its job. That's just my personal opinion. Might differ from others, but hey, I'm honest. Drinking at least 3 liters of water a day. Good to know. Take a look at magnesium and vitamin C, read about that more. And if that's not working, then definitely I would do some investigation on food intolerances, other things that could be slowing the digestion down. Poor stomach acid, things like that can all impact how you go to the bathroom as well. Okay, guys, we've been going a long time, so I'll take a couple more, and I think I have a couple down here that I maybe didn't answer that came through. So, hi, Brenda. So if there's any more questions, throw them out because I'm going to wrap it up here shortly. You guys have asked some amazing questions today, and this will be re-aired, so you can go back and hear the answer again. Let's see, there were a few of you that sent some over. I talked about the hormone imbalances after menopause, almonds with spices, food sensitivities later in life. I know someone asked about that. We may have already kind of touched on that from other people's questions, but yes, you can absolutely develop food intolerances later in life. Absolutely. Part of the reason, I believe, is because we're under stress and our digestion isn't as efficient. And so by focusing on stress response, trying to make sure that your body's able to access parasympathetic activity, digest your food, break your food down, eliminate the excess, that's the first thing to look at. Then there's also the fact that you just have this intolerance to something that just builds over time. I find that the majority of people are intolerant to dairy, whether you want to admit it or not, and a lot of people to gluten, a lot more than aware. For all of you asking about Hashimoto's, gluten is a huge part of that. Eliminating gluten is a huge part of that. Maybe if you haven't done that, for the one asking about inflammation and exercise and things like that, take a look at what you're eating in your diet, see if you're really, really following an autoimmune diet. Because that may be the reason why the inflammatory marker isn't responding as it could as well. I do get pretty good success with that. That's just a little tip. Which testing kit would you recommend to test food intolerances? You know, there are a lot of different companies in all sorts of different price points. So I originally used to use Immunolabs quite a bit, but it's very expensive. Very specific though, but very expensive. There are some others out there though, some of the smaller local companies that can do it. I mean, honestly, if you look at any lab that naturopaths use, I mean, I can just I can rattle off a bunch of them. If you look like Genova, Great Plains, SpectraCell, Alites, Immunolabs, most of those do some sort of food allergy testing. I do not recommend it through your traditional lab that you would normally use through your insurance. Why? Because they can do the IgE, okay? They can do the immediate reaction pretty easily, but they don't have a lot of the specification for IgG antibodies. And the other problem is a lot of the times the insurance companies don't want to cover those, and your bill ends up being 4 times higher because it went through a commercial, like a large commercial lab. So sometimes you're better off paying cash for one of the smaller labs that do that exclusively, just because it allows you to get the answer that you need for less out-of-pocket cost, which matters. Some of those labs charge way too much for the same test. But you can, if you have really good insurance and you think it'll cover it, man, go for it. But they don't do as much of a profile. So for example, they won't break down, one of the reasons I used Immunolabs was I liked that they broke down whey versus casein, and egg yolk versus egg white, because a lot of the times you're intolerant to one but not the other, and that gives more options for people to figure out how to live with this intolerance. I'm allergic to both. I'm allergic to the whey and the casein. So for me, dairy is just not an option, or I should say intolerant. I'm not allergic. I won't die, but I surely won't feel well, and I will leave the party. And I have a problem with the lactase. So it was allowed me to determine the different parts of it, in hopes that I was tolerant to part of it, but no such luck. But that's kind of nice. Egg white and egg yolk is one that I see commonly, that people will be intolerant to one and not the other, and that may make a difference in how they eat. What supplements do you recommend to heal fatigue and tired from adrenal fatigue? Yeah, so I do have, I talk about these a lot, Michelle. I think I go through and profile a lot of these herbs, a lot of these nutrients. My book, Total Health Turnaround, talks about them as well. I have a 30-day program that you can do at home at totalhealthturnaround.com. Check that out, guys, totalhealthturnaround.com. But it has, kind of guides you through what type of supplements maybe you need. Because the bottom line is not everyone's the same. What works for one person doesn't always work for another. Now, I can give you some general recommendations that are very, very key to adrenal health. Definitely B vitamins, methylated B vitamins are very key to adrenal health, particularly B5, B6, B12, and methylated folate. Vitamin C, very, very important. Making sure that you have enough magnesium, very, very important. Looking at herbs like rhodiola, Eleutherococcus, holy basil, shashandra. I use some ginsengs, can be very helpful, but then also calming the adrenal glands with things like L-theanine, phosphatidylserine, which were amino acids, and then looking at a whole food diet that hopefully in the future can maintain those levels so you're not popping like 50 pills for the rest of your life, because nobody wants to do that, right? So, but those are some of the target ones, if that helps, Michelle. And then if you want more information about that, check out my book or my program. And you might be able to get some more info to figure out what might work for you and what might work for you. But keep in mind, guys, when it comes to adrenal fatigue, you want to wake up in the morning and you want to go to bed at night. The adrenal fatigue happens because the cortisol is doing this all the time. It's high when it's not supposed to be and low when it's not supposed to be. So you're wide awake in the middle of the night and exhausted during the day. So when you give supplements and support to that, you have to make sure you're supporting that natural rhythm. Things that bring you up should be taken in the morning, and things that bring you down should be taken in the evening. So whenever you see an adrenal supplement, try to figure out what kind of adrenal supplement it is. Is it one that's supposed to wake you up, or is it one that's supposed to calm you down? If you have adrenal fatigue and you're only looking at the waking up component, you will eventually not be able to sleep. You have to balance. The world is balanced. We need balance. We need balanced viewpoints. We need balanced nutrients. We need balanced minerals. We need balanced awake and sleep time. If we only look at one thing, you're not going to get to where you need to go. And that applies to life in general. Just throwing that out there. Okay? All right. I got the rest of those. What should we eat to detox our colon and avoid CRC? You know what? You don't really have to detox your colon. You just need to go to the bathroom every day. I mean, you need to be going to the bathroom. You need to be eating food and going to the bathroom. I mean, if you're not going to the bathroom, you're gonna get backed up. I personally, in situations like that, recommend colon hydrotherapy. It's not for everyone, but colonics can be very helpful. Eating plant-based foods and a lot of plant-based fiber can help dramatically. I'm not personally one that does a colon cleanse. I do liver cleanses where I don't eat as much per week and allow my body to move through toxins. But as far as like colon, like actually removing stuff from the colon, I would lean more towards doing a colon hydrotherapy than I would trying to take a bunch of supplements to do that, because you can deplete a lot of nutrients doing that as well. Right? Do you believe eggs are bad for you? I was listening to another doctor. He said eggs have bugs and are bad for you. I don't believe that they're bad for you. I think that everyone's different. I personally like to get my eggs from a local farmer's market, and I don't eat them all the time. I think everyone's different. Some people eggs are one of the major allergens, so a lot of people just don't do with eggs in general. But no, I always look for the source, where'd they come from? There are a lot of farmed eggs that are not very good, so look at farmed eggs. Okay, guys, I could go on all day, but I think we've been on for an hour, so I think we're gonna have to do more Q&As. Do you guys like the Q&A? Do you guys want me to do this more often? Maybe a couple times a month we could do a Q&A? I would be totally open to that. That would be great. I mean, it's kind of fun. I like seeing all your questions. Marshmallow root, Google that on my website, drpingel.com. I have a whole section. I have an article about intestinal herbs, and marshmallow root is one of them. I'm always weak and tired. I have fibromyalgia. Valerie, check out totalhealthturnaround.com. Check that out, okay? To all of you, thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions. This was fun. I didn't know if anyone would have any, but how awesome. So I will look at doing a Q&A more regularly for you guys. And thanks for your patience with me being a little bit late today. I'm gonna go check out hopefully my new countertop in my office, which is hopefully installed by now, and go spend some time with my little 9-year-old that just turned 9 today. Would you guys like to see, also I wanted to ask you if you guys would like to see more DIY recipes, like for health stuff, like masks, beauty masks, like our bug spray recipe we just put out seemed to do really well, and people seem to wanted that type of thing. Do you guys like that type of thing? You guys want more natural recipes for stuff other than cooking? Would you guys be interested in that? I'm trying to work on some stuff like that. The bug spray was fun, home cleaning products, things you can do that have low toxin level. If that's something you guys are interested, tell me, right? I really do want to listen to you guys. I really do. I want to give you what you want. So if you guys have suggestions, you have topics you want to hear about, I'm getting lots of yeses. That's awesome, because I'm really excited to do some of that type of stuff. It's a little bit of a detour from what I always do, so it's nice to have some suggestions for other stuff. But I want to fill you guys with content that you want. So please keep the feedback coming. I could stay here all day and talk to you. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Stuff to help repair gut. Tina, check out drpingel.com. I also did a live on that. Check out my YouTube page. I have a live on gut health, inflammatory herbs for the gut. All of these, I will continue to give you more information on. So I want you guys to take this Monday, and I want you to go out there and make it a great Monday. Remember to love each other. Remember to spread positivity and love, because that's how we get through stuff like this, okay? And I will keep the content coming, and I will promise you I will do more Q&As, and I'll be back tomorrow for Dr. Pingel's checkup at my usual time. Thank you to all of you. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.